welcome, Mr. Trinity Ncube. Am I saying it correct?
Perfect. Perfect.
So, welcome onto Chatterbox. And thank you for gracing us with your presence all the way from Johannesburg. It's been a far journey just to come and chat with us. But how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's been a long journey, as you said. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you for availing yourself. It's been a long journey. What has your journey been like over the last, let's say, 10 years? Seeing that you're speaking about the journey.
Yeah, it's been a very long journey. As I say, a lot of detours.
Yeah.
It has not been linear. It's been a lot of detours, a lot of bends. But all I can say is unpredictable. Everything that happens, it's been very unpredictable, and somehow things
like
work.
The economy.
Oh yes. So nobody knows exactly what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And as much as we insist on things happening a certain way, I'm glad that I'm at peace to know there's something bigger than all of us that takes care of everything, that maintains, that sustains life, and we just leave that to those powers.
I'm listening to you now, and I'm thinking, it's a huge honor to firstly have you as my brother-in-law. It's a huge honor, and the way you are, what you stand for. It's something that I myself can look up to. It's not very often that you find people that you can look up to anymore, because they live a certain way, but they do things a different way. So honestly, it's a huge honor for me. Firstly, to have you as my brother-in-law, but also there's a lot of things that I can feed off from you. I've watched some of your videos that you have also on YouTube. Very inspirational, and the method that you go at by how you're doing things. How did you to get to that point where your thought process on when you're busy speaking to people, especially like with finances, dealing with certain aspects? How did you get to that point?
It's interesting that you're inspired by my work, because I'm equally inspired by your work. I mean, for quite a while, I've been hesitant to start a new channel or anything, and I've been watching your different channels. I mean, I've just been watching your growth, your wife, and your family, and I'm really inspired by the work that you guys have been doing. When it comes to my work, I can't say there has been a plan, like a set plan, because when I started studying, for example, for over 20 years, I studied economics. I've taught economics. We have had programs on finances and so forth with a lot of our associates. So it has been very interesting, the sort of pivots that we have taken, along the journey, because initially we were just focused mainly on business, economics, and so forth. But without going into too much detail, what I've found out in everything that we've been doing is that it's all about working with people.
Okay.
Yes. So all business problems are people problems.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what technology and all these things that we do. At the end of the day, it's about people. So I enjoy working with people, and the more I'm doing that, the more I actually learn about myself, and just realizing that we have much more in common than we would like to believe. Yes, I think we get into trouble by believing in separateness. People trying to be separate, not knowing that we are all made of the same stuff.
True.
That is the one thing that I really have learned over the past decade or so.
So you've mentioned about the different, it wasn't a plan, sort of plan, I'm going into it. And
sorry to interject. My parents had a plan. So my parents had a plan. They worked very hard. They sent me to school. in the later years of my life, my dad passed on, and my mother took on the baton to do the rest. And well, she worked very hard to send me to university, and as I was doing that was the plan. So the plan was always, when you finish university, then you do this kind of job. You become a doctor, a lawyer, and accountant, and all of that. And I didn't want any of those, those professions. So even to be honest, when I went to university, I didn't even know exactly what I was going to study. I just knew I was going to do something along business. And it so happened that I happened to excel at economics. And as I went along, I just kept on majoring with economics up until my graduate degrees that I did. It was all around business and economics. And then there's one thing that was very intriguing. I did a course called organizational behavior, and there was a lot of contents about leadership in there, and we had a lot of case studies that spoke to people interactions. See, that really piqued my interest, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I genuinely, like, it was very practical, and it's having been a manager and a leader in business, I could see how this applied to to my daily life, even family, So that's when I really started having a bigger interest in working with people, leaders, community leaders, entrepreneurs, whether it's in universities or corporates or in society. So it's that's really what took a detour for me to like, okay, now I want to see how one can really work with people. But it also took me understanding not just myself, but how people function.
You mentioned something about your parents having a plan, and I think it's so important. Our parents play a huge role in our future, because even though we choose a path, but they need to also provide for that path. And when your mother and your father is busy doing something, and they want the best for you, they put in a lot of work for that. And the result of that is something that I see now when I look at you with your family, is that because of what how your mother and your father, how they treated you and what they did for you there, it shows that what they have taught you, you've taken in, and now you're running with that with your own family again, and you supporting your own family and seeing to your own family. So that support structure is so important, especially for when you are raising kids, teaching them a certain way, raising them a certain way. It only comes from your parents before.
Absolutely. It's very, very interesting that you say that, because when it comes to parenting, it doesn't come with a manual. So we 100%. Our parents, they were very loving, very supportive, also made a lot of mistakes. And that is the type of consciousness that they had at that time. We also make mistakes, but
you learn by those mistakes.
Of course. So like, we learn, and I've learned, and we continue to grow and learn. But the most important thing that I've picked up on as I continue to grow in my awareness is that, you see, it's not so much about what we say and all of that. See, our children see what we do. They see what we do. So that consciousness that is within the parent feeds into the children. Without, you do not even actually need to say too much. They just watch exactly what you do. They see how they lead. I'm just giving an example. So if you look at, for example, the leadership in this country, in a lot of different countries across the globe. So if we take citizens, for example, as children, we are only feeding from the consciousness that surrounds us. And it's no wonder why we have chaos everywhere. So the same applies to a family. If the father and the mother are of a certain level of consciousness, a house that has freedom, joy, happiness, that house will have liberty, that house will have freedom. So the children flourish without, you do not need to be holding a stick and beating them and all of that. They just do exactly how you are doing your thing. So very interesting. That I think we are blessed actually to be in a situation when we can realize that when we're born, we're conditioned, and our parents, they're also conditioned, but now we can uncondition those paradigms, those those maps that we had growing up. So it's a blessed time to be alive, knowing that our collective level of consciousness is what is showing out there in the world. It's something that I'm passionate about. I always tell my clients, your level of consciousness, your thinking, is whatever you have in your internal world is reflected back into. So if you have conflict with people, all conflict is self-conflict. That means you also have conflict within yourself. Because if I have conflict with you, I need to correct that within myself. There's something that I should see you in a very different light. Therefore, any issues that might arise should be corrected before we start exchanging words.
And you know, you speak about conflict. You know, with conflict, it's such a huge topic, because we've become, as human beings, we've become very hard-headed when it comes to conflict, and when we don't want to resolve it because we feel that we are right all the time.
Yes.
But that's another topic.
Okay.
That's another topic. So we getting to know you, right?
Okay.
And before we go on to our next episode,
okay,
there is though something that people don't know about you that I know.
Okay.
There's something that I know. So besides you doing interviews on BBC thing and what other?
Just several. So BBC, Carte Blanche, Channels TV Nigeria. I think we've done. What was that? CNBC. And a few others.
Because you're a smart man. Right? So because you're a smart man, but there's one thing that people maybe don't know about you that I know, is that you're also a DJ. What a life I've had.
But
you're also not the fake DJ. That's the
thing. That's the thing about everyone now has a laptop, so everybody's a DJ. You know, I mean, I don't mean to brag, but when it comes to DJing, we've been doing this for over 25, 30 years. So I started off, my dad, he loved, I mean, he was a military man. And I grew up in the military intelligence circles. And when it came to music, he loved reggae. He always collected records. So there was no shortage of records in the house. So I don't know if you remember those old wooden box, like, you know, radios. So we had one of those, and we had a lot of records. And from then on, like, in our house, there was always music. So I suppose when my mom was pregnant with me, I suppose I was always listening to music. So it was no surprise when I was born that I was always playing with records. And then when I went to school, I started collecting cassettes as well. And they voted me to be the DJ for the school. And I mean, as early as 12, 13 years old, I got my first check. I got paid for my first gig. So I used to play cassettes, and we used to rewind them with a pen. And I got really skilled. So people would hire me for their birthday parties at school and in our community. And then fast forward, I think when I got to varsity, I got a part-time job with UCT Radio for like 2 years. So 2 years.
Okay, there's something I didn't know.
Now I met some really cool people there. I met some really big people there. Even some of the global DJs like your Ready D's and so forth. And so I started playing, and what do you know? I started getting gigs like at Rhodes House. Had residencies here at Marvel and Long Street, and then in Observatory, Lower Main, I mean, Rondebosch, Cyber.
But I think that the difference is that you play with vinyl.
Yes. You don't play just, or you don't play with you know, the turntables, the CDJs,
but the CDJs. You actually play with vinyl.
So when it comes to that, I'm very militant about what a DJ should be. I mean, respect to all the DJs who use whatever equipment they use. For me, I've always felt that if you're going to do any art and piece of art, you need to be devoted to the art.
Yeah.
So you need to be one with the art.
Yes.
So I've never stopped collecting records, and I like to do it on the turntables, vinyl players and so forth, on the mixer. And of course, now and then I can use a DVS, that is Serato and Pioneer DJ. But when it comes to mixing and playing, I would like to play on raw vinyl. It's like the spirit takes over me when I'm, someone with the music, and it's just for the love of the craft. I do get paid sometimes, but I don't play as often as I used to. But it's just this one thing that I've noticed with creativity and taking the art seriously. And I wish most DJs would do this, where it's not just about pressing play there and then.
But there's a lot of people that I've seen. I mean, like, again, no disrespect to any other DJ, but I've seen, like, young kids come, and all they do is put in a USB stick and press play, and they stand there, and then that's it.
Yeah, so it's technology is really helpful. Technologies and really technology has made us push the boundaries, of how creative one can be, and we use some of those tools. However, I still believe that one still need to learn the craft, to be a legend in the game, to really learn the craft and, understand. Even I had a lot of teachers who taught me, people that I look up to today, where one time before they even taught me how to mix or count the beats or scratch whatever, they taught me through the history of music. So like from jazz to disco to house music to reggae to everything, learning the history and the people who made a contribution to the art form. I think that is missing today, and I think it's important for all the young people, even some older people who are starting to go into DJ, to learn the art form, where things came from. It just makes you appreciate more, and have more respect towards the, yes, the technology is super helpful. It will push. I mean, if we're not careful, we're going to be replaced by robots. Anyway.
But thank you very much, Trin. Getting to know you a little bit better for the viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Please stay tuned. Watch the next episode. We're gonna speak a little bit about finance. Just a little bit. That's another world. So we're just gonna touch a little bit on that.
Yes.
So stay tuned. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.